Hey, Dark Souls and Bloodborne are pretty neato, but I think with some welcome additions they could go from God tier to old God tier. No? Too much? Anyway, I've been struggling to come up with video ideas for the past week, which is why there's been no content recently, and it's been stressing me the fuck out. So instead of being lazy and putting out something shit, I'll put out something a little less shit. And at least I'll start a new conversation, because that's what we do here. Today we're going to look at some stuff I'd love to see in future Souls-esque games, whether it be quality of life stuff or a new game mechanic. Now, this is stuff that I want. You might not agree with the shit that I want, but honestly don't know where I was going with that. Just please don't hate my decisions. So let's begin. First things first, we have familiars. As a dog lover in Dark Souls 1, when you can summon Baby Civ as a phantom, it was one of the coolest feelings in the entire game for me. So why not go a step further and add a new form of spells that allow you to summon animals. Spells have always been a thing in Dark Souls where personally I felt was slightly lacking. You have mini crystal pew pew and then a big crystal pew pew, with some mixture in between. What I'd do is I'd have a new type of magic called conjuration. For example, if you wanted a wolf, it would require 5 attunement slots and cost a hell of a lot to cast, and you'd be limited to having one conjured animal at a time, and it would last, let's say, about 3 minutes. Balancing aside, the conjured animal would act in a similar fashion to summoned NPCs, taking inspiration from Dark Souls 2. A lot of NPCs in that game have a unique purpose. For example, certain phantoms being helpful in certain situations, such as a phantom casting light in Soldier's Rest, or a phantom using the red eyes to tank the Lost Sinner. The familiars could work in a similar fashion. If you summon a wolf, it could be a straight up damage companion, a bear could be a tank companion, and a cat, a cat could have a similar effect as the Sun Princess ring, which would give you HP regen. I think this idea would be bloody awesome, not only expanding the school of magic we have at our disposal, but who doesn't want a dog at their side? Next we have Dismemberment. This is pretty self-explanatory, slicing and dicing dudes up. I want to see some goddamn limbs fly. See that dude? No legs. Chopped him off. See that dude? No head. Chopped it off. This could really open up a new way of killing stuff in the Souls games. For example, if you get a riposte on a guy and it's in kill range, you'll do a special animation that will just cut them in half or something like that. What inspired this idea is The Witcher 3. Dismemberment in that game just feels cool as hell and creates awesome moments like this. Don't you think that's so fucking cool? I don't really have much to say about this one, it would just be awesome to see limbs fly everywhere. Next on this list is a Horde mode. This idea got posted on Reddit by the user Rafoka, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, but this idea has been circulating for a while. The idea would be similar to queuing up like we do for the PvP arena now, but we would queue up for a Horde mode instead. It would be a 4-player co-op event where you and your trusted companions would fight waves and waves of enemies, getting more difficult as you go, and in the end you would fight a boss. Now, a Horde mode is a touch and go game type. Some people love it, some people hate it. Me personally, I love it, which is why it's on this list. Killing Floor, Mass Effect, and Call of Duty Zombies, just to name a few, all have this Horde mode game type, and I find it amazing fun, so why would it work? As we're talking about a future Souls-esque game, I'll try and not use too much Dark Souls lingo, but firstly, it would fit that PvE void that many fall into after they've beaten the game. You can only play through the game so much, I feel, which is why PvP is a huge part in what keeps Dark Souls alive, and having a Horde mode not only lets PvE players have that incentive to keep playing, but has that opportunity to increase the lifespan of the game as it'll cater to more of the player base. It's not exactly a new idea, but Dark Souls and its gameplay, I feel, fits the bill down to a T, and probably would benefit greatly from this type of game mode. Players making builds specifically for Horde mode is something I could see being a thing. Support builds, tank builds, and the like. When working in a group, you want that group to succeed, giving a greater sense of community. Plus, like the others on this list, it would just be cool. Next we have rare loot. Now this is most likely my MMO background coming into play, and I know with the current anti-cheat system in place this would not work.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
But with that said, I would love to be able to find super rare loot in a Souls game and for that item to actually hold value. Not monetary value or anything like that, but value in the game, which would mean we would have to have a currency of sorts, and for us to be able to trade it to one another. The current trading system in Dark Souls is pretty linear. Some guy wants a weapon, some other dude drops it and then reverts his save back, bish bash bosh. I'd like this to be expanded upon. Not only having the potential to find super awesome rare stuff in the world, such as, I don't know, reskinned weapons, but to have that unique aspect about your character that you put so much time into. A pretty good example is when the Dark Souls 2 DLC was being released, From would update the chest in Majula every week, and it contained a reskinned version of an existing weapon. Now even though all players had this available, it was still a cool feeling having something that someone might not have. I spent 2 days farming Silver Knights for those fucking Concord Keps and I hated every single minute of it, but if there was a chance that those Silver Knights could have dropped something unique, it would have justified that madness. So in a future Souls-esque game, I want every single item in the game to be obtainable by every single player, but to those who put in the time or who are just extremely lucky, they have that potential to stand out from the crowd and become a unique snowflake. Lastly, we have Fashion Souls. Now, fashion is by far the most important aspect of these games, and that's not debatable. Right now we are at the behest of From Software's art department when it comes to mixing and matching various armor pieces to create the most beautiful set of armor we can, or a complete travesty. Adding new customization options would be so welcomed, not just for the player character's physical appearance, but more so the pieces of armor we deem to wear. What I'd like to see in the future is an extended item slot page to include capes, belts, things like that, so we can truly mix and match what we wear in our character. Not only that, I think a good idea would be to have an RGB colour slider for the cloth of various armors we wear. For example, Artorias' armor might look pretty cool if the cloth section looked green. Ew. Now, we mentioned this earlier when we talked about rare loot. This would make our characters unique and feel like our own. Not only that, but it would expand on an aspect of Dark Souls that many players feel is an important factor of the series, and I'm actually being serious here. Loads of people, including myself, care about their character's appearance. Because being an avid RPG player, I choose to roleplay in these games, and I can portray my character in a greater sense if I have more control over the way I look. Now this list was surprisingly difficult to think of. It was really hard to think of brand new stuff they could add to a Souls game, and the majority of this stuff wasn't even original anyway, so it gave me a greater appreciation of the innovation From Software puts into these games. This shit is hard, folks. Anywho, if you've got your own cool ideas that you've got for future Souls games, let me know down below in the comments. Real quick before I go, we managed to raise over $400 for the Extra Life charity during our charity stream. So a massive thank you to everyone who tuned in and donated. You guys are true champions of the freaking light. I had so much fun and I hope you did too. With that said, take care everyone, be good to one another, and thanks for watching.